Okay, looks like everything is working. Looks like we are ready to rock for painting some of the dudes that we built yesterday. So yesterday we kit bashed together a whole bunch of these guys, these like World War II German zombies, right? For our dudes to shoot apart and murder. So I figured today we would try to paint them up. And so in the last stream, I mentioned the previous zombies I had from Kuroshineku. They're really great STLs and minis, but there's only like 5 designs, and that's kind of the problem. So with this, we're going to get to add all these really cool poses and stuff now that we made up yesterday. And we can just kind of fit them in, right? The Kuroshineku ones are a little larger scale-wise. They're a little more heroic proportions. But they'll look okay when they're part of a horde. Because even compared to the regular troops, they're a little more heroically proportioned. But they'll look good when they're part of a squad of shambling bastards. Boop. Here's a cool one with a gas grenade or a stick grenade. Here's the hug zombie. Fun stuff. So yeah, I figured we would paint some of these up. So since I built them yesterday, I primed them in gray. So a lot of the uniforms are going to be gray. My Nazi force is kind of I think of them as like a Castle Wolfenstein kind of force more than anything like actual historical, right? So that's why I have like zombies and vampires and stuff, right? It's part of it, and werewolves and all. But it means that I do kind of like the mismatch uniform kind of thing. Because during the war, they ended up issuing out a couple different kinds of uniforms in slightly different colors. And what would happen is people wouldn't get all of the updates, right? Like you might get a new pair of pants, and your new pair of pants might be in the new color, and your old pair of pants was in the old color, or your old jacket is in the old color, and you're wearing both of those together, kind of thing. So I tend to try to do that, right, where it's kind of this mix. So for the new uniform color, I use Feldgrau, which is field gray. I use the one from Army Painter, but there's an almost identical one in Vallejo as well, right? And any paint that's called German gray will basically be the same color. It's this kind of like gray mixed with green. Very kind of like this is that color kind of thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick about 3 of these guys, and we're going to paint them all up. And yeah, it should be pretty cool in the end. So I'm going to pick some different kinds of pieces real quick of their gear, right? So like this guy's helmet's going to be Feldgrau. His pants are going to be that color, right? This guy, we're going to paint all of his clothes that color, I think. Because the actual ones using the actual zombie bodies, they are really way more torn up, and it's kind of cool. So we'll have a lot of cool variation in our zombies. Alright, like maybe this guy got hit by a mortar, or maybe he was like in a mass grave, or something like that, right? Like maybe this guy was actually like buried in the ground somehow. His uniform's just shredded, and I think that's pretty dope. So using some of the parts from the actual Blitzkrieg kit, which is one of the kits we use with this, along with the awesomely, awesomely cool Pulp Adventure Zombies box. Hello. So using parts from both of those, it does mean that we have some of these zombies where like one arm actually is in like a full complete sleeve, and I'm gonna be honest, I think that looks really cool. That like part of the uniform survived. I think that's really cool. Very, very neat. And it's occurring to me now that as I'm painting this guy's uniform, I really should have started with his skin, because he has so much skin that's kind of like just sort of like worked through the holes in the uniform. So rip-a-rooney on that. It's going to make him a little bit harder to paint. So these guys are definitely you know, we put some gear on them, but they actually don't have like a ton of gear, so they actually should be pretty easy to paint, which is pretty cool. So so yeah, we'll do a couple of them up. This one I'm going to give him the Felgrow helmet, and we'll make his outfit. I don't know the German name for that one. It's usually referred to as uniform gray in different paint lines, but I don't know the actual I don't know the name of it, I guess, in German, like I do the Felgrau or the Splintertarn or that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, these guys should make really fun enemies for our Americans or British or anything like that. Kind of been in the mood to work on some more inter-allied Polish. I do kind of, I don't know. The idea of the inter-allies is really fun to me, right? Kind of people that are kind of fighting for their homes and trying to like take like their land and stuff. That's pretty cool. I got big respect for that. So, so yeah, I don't know. I have some more of those to paint up as well, so maybe I'll do some more of those soon. And since I got a whole lot of this green out today, I mean, shit, we'll just keep going with it. While I've got it, I guess. Even though it's going to make everything harder, but it'll be fine. But yeah, I really cannot sing the praises of the zombie kit enough. Wargames Atlantic really knocked it out of the park with this one. And this kind of stuff, these like kind of multi-part, like you choose your own pose kind of plastics, they're fantastic. But this kind of stuff really shows like the power of this kind of building, right? This kind of multi-part plastic building, because you know you can really just kit bash basically whatever you want, and it's really cool. Alright, I'll make that guy solid gray. This guy will get Felgrow pants. But yeah, it's super sweet, you know. If you wanted Napoleonics, if you wanted World War II guys, if you wanted cowboys or pirates, like they all, you know, you can make all of them out of this kit, and it's really, really good stuff. There we go. And then, should we just do this dude's whole uniform in Felgrow? We'll do his whole uniform in regular gray. And then this guy here, we'll do his blouse in Felgrow. And these zombies are an awesome use of the crawling bodies, making these like crawling zombies. It's really fun. And yeah. So you get so many of these in the box, right? You get 6 per sprue, 5 sprues. And I'm really kind of planning to use these with one of the one-page rules games. So this kind of enemy in one-page rules is going to come in clumps of 3. So I kit bashed myself up 9 of these so that I could make 3 sets of 3. Excuse me. To play with in the game. Yeah, and they're going to come in sets of 3 because that's how one-page rules Grimdark Firefight does their quote-unquote like horde enemies. So I've got some actually painted Germans here, so I can remember some like non-zombie ones, so I can remember what colors I used. This guy actually even has the same rifle as this one. You can see that, right? They have the same, literally the same rifle. So, but we do need to do the skin. Last time, I'm not 100% sure what color I used for this skin. It looks like something like stone gray to me, but I'm not 100% sure. Because I was thinking maybe it's maybe it was this spaceship exterior, but that looks wrong. It looks more like a stone gray or a castle gray. Let me see what I got real quick. Hold on. Yeah, maybe it's one of these kind of colors, warm stone or castle gray. Thinking maybe warm stone. We'll try that. Because I definitely know I hit it all with a brown wash. Because for these, I was using the Vallejo Umber wash, but for whatever reason, my bottle of that got really weird. So I'm just switching all these guys over to Strong Tone. Or maybe we'll do the brown wash for these from Pro Acryl. Because that stains a little more, and that in my brain feels like World War II. Kind of like the more, kind of like dirty kind of griminess. So that kind of feels in my brain more like World War II. So maybe we'll do the Pro Acryl wash instead. Alright, so let's see. We have our guy here. And we're just going to paint in some of his skin. Yeah. I really should have painted one of these as a test before I decided to stream it. Just so I could kind of get used to painting the shapes of the pieces, right? Because you can see there's a lot of cuts in the uniform and stuff. There's also bits where, like, I think it's supposed to be cloth that's left, you know. And some of these details are a little soft, so I think I probably should have painted myself a test guy first, to be honest. It's okay. Don't think anyone will mind if I mess up painting my zombie a little bit, right? Alright, this worn stone is not covering super well, so we're probably going to have to do a couple of coats of that, unfortunately. But it's okay. I do think this is going to be a really good color for them, though. It's kind of like off-white. Really not a big fan of doing zombies in green, like the green zombies. I like doing the like kind of like white, like they've lost all their blood kind of looking zombies. Whoop. Yeah. But really, the base kits, like from the pulp box, They come in these like tattered robes with tattered clothes on their arms and stuff, and maybe like one or two of them have things in their hand. But if you really wanted them to be super easy to paint, you wouldn't even need to do that. You could like prime these all like white and then paint in the clothes and hit them with a wash and they would be done. Like that's how easy they could be. But I think adding the extra gear and stuff makes them a little more fun looking. Makes them fit the theme a little bit more, you know? So we're going to have to paint in a little bit of belts and bobs, right? And then the ones that we have in the full uniforms, they're going to get, they're going to have more love put into them. But, yeah. By default, they're actually pretty simple kits, which is pretty cool. So the nice thing about that is that they can really go into any of those settings that I mentioned. You know, if you want to use these in Ghost Archipelago, if you want to use them in Silver Bayonet, if you wanted to use them in any World War II game. What's that one about being the commandos? It's like 0800 Hours or something it's called. I don't remember. But you're like World War II commandos trying to like sneak around and like not alert the guards and stuff. Yeah, like they would be perfect for that too. Right? You could have like a, I don't know, some kind of like German base you're like SAS are sneaking into, and you know, if you piss the guards off, you know, and there's a firefight, it's like, oh shit, all the zombies got out, you know. It'd be pretty cool. But yeah, I'm planning to use these on like a Castle Wolfenstein kind of inspired like one-page rules like World War II game. You know, where I have really I'm planning on playing StarQuest with them and basically making myself like a custom World War II army and just playing the StarQuest rules. Because that way I could have like a couple U.S. commandos fighting against like a whole bunch of Nazis, like, you know, B.J. Blazkowicz kind of style. And I think that is super cool and fun. You know, very Wolfenstein. I just got to make the rules for the Nazis. Now, they do have a whole ton of rules already. There might already be a World War II like style, Wolfenstein style like army that's already there. I haven't really looked, but I was planning on doing it myself. But yeah, if I make that rules, I can use them then in StarQuest, and that'll be pretty cool, you know. Breaking into the facility and, you know, murdering all the like the evil Nazi scientists and stuff. Like, I think that's a pretty fun setting, I think. You know, and I can use all the werewolves I made and stuff, right? Maybe I'll play one in with my Imperial Japanese, and I have like Oni and stuff for my Japanese, which are really fun. I do think I might try to make up a couple zombies for them too, because they had that you know, like everyone knows about Joseph Mengele, but was it like Division 8 or whatever they were called, that did all the like weird experiments on people in Japan during World War II? They're the ones that did all those like experiments on animals where they tried to turn them into bombs and stuff. So yeah, I think there's some you know, there's some room for the occult there as well, you know. Boop. So yeah, these guys are definitely going to need more than one coat, but I think this is a good like color though. I like this color, so. But definitely it's going to need more than one coat. But you can see they're actually pretty nice and easy to paint. I think we're going to try to get 3 of them done today while I'm streaming. And since I still got the white or the warm stone, I'm going to finish putting on some more of them, I guess. Boop. But yeah, these would be so good for silver bayonet too. Evening, it's been a while since I popped in. How are you? I am doing okay. I am doing okay. You know, keep on keeping on. That's how I am doing. Everything is crazy in the US right now. Everything changes every day. We never know what's going on. But we do our best. Because that's what we do. And we paint little Nazis so that our guys can shoot them apart. And that's what I'm doing right now. But yeah, the Star Quest rules are simple enough but versatile enough that like you really can use them for basically any setting. You just have to have armies that match the theme of that setting, and that's super easy to do with the army builder. Like I really have to say it, that army builder that One Page Rules made is legitimately one of the nicest apps ever made for wargaming. Like the fact it just lets you make an army and it just is like basically balanced, right? That's so freaking cool. Because it just kind of does that for you. It's super, super cool. Okay, so this color does not go in pretty the first time, so we're gonna have to give that another coat. Well, let's talk about what other colors we're gonna need. So for these guys, man, it really likes that Gundam. All right, dual Gundam, you need to go away. Same for you, Buster Gundam. So for these guys, they're gonna get the uniform bits and then little bits and bobs from their kit. So we can probably start picking those out, to be honest. And then once we have all those picked out, we can probably go back with another round of the flesh, clean that up, and then clean up the uniforms, and they're probably basically done at that point, besides washes and stuff. So here we go. So this is dark neutral gray. This is my favorite black color. Because when it dries, it basically makes black, and the black it makes is still light enough that you can see details, because it's really making a super dark black, super dark gray, but it is, in my opinion, close enough to black. But you can still see the details in the minis, right? So, and all these guys with the full uniforms, they still have their like rifle pouches and stuff, so we got to paint all that in still. Thankfully, most of this gear came in all kinds of crazy colors in World War II, because they were running out of dyes, or they couldn't get all the right materials and all this kind of stuff. So this stuff came in all kinds of colors during the war. So if you're like, oh, I really want these pouches to be leather, you can probably find an instance where those pouches were leather instead. Or, oh, I think they should be canvas. Well, you know, sometimes these got issued in canvas, so, you know, that's like actually a thing. But yeah, especially with these like bread bags and stuff and the canteens and all, they came in like so many different colors. It's like sometimes they were blue, sometimes they were tan, you know, sometimes they were Feldgrau and stuff. Yeah, so it's pretty cool. Let's see, this guy's got a couple of pouches. He's got an entrenching tool. Yeah, the entrenching tools, they had like a line that ran around them, like a cover, and then like a belt that wrapped around the base of the handle. Yeah. So just paint in a little bit of it. We can hit it with the other colors that aren't the black. And it'll help us pick us out, because some of these details are really tiny. Stuff like the rifle pouches and stuff, or the like shoulder straps and stuff. Some of that stuff is really, really freaking tiny, you know. So if you don't get it perfect the first time, you can hit it again in the cleanup step and it'll work really good. So, and some of these guys have a gas mask strap, and sometimes I paint those in tan. I'm just going to paint them in black this time, but sometimes I do them in tan. And the gas mask canisters, they were a thing that changed all the time too, during the war. So I'm not trying to paint belts onto the guys that don't have them, but I do want to paint the gear that I put on them. So yeah. Alright, we'll go ahead and call that there, and we'll go back and hit our whites again. Alright, back to War in Stone we go. I'm going to give it a little bit extra of a shake this time. Maybe it'll cover a little better. But on round 2 it should be fine. Bonk. Yeah, round 2 is going to cover just fine. Yeah, well, World War II stuff is one of those things that, like, I go in and out of on interest. I think part of it is like legitimately getting older. I find it more fascinating. And sometimes I'm just kind of in the mood for the historical flair, and sometimes I'm really not. Sometimes I want something so removed from reality that I'm like, nope, historical stuff can fuck off. Yes, I know I did a terrible job there, but we're going to touch that up. But sometimes I'm like, yeah, the historical stuff's really neat, you know? But like I said, that comes and goes, you know? It's one of the really nice things, and also one of the bad things about tabletop gaming is, like, you can really find it in any flavor. If you want a game in a period, you can find it. If you want Sci-fi game with robots, there's like 5 to choose from. If you want a sci-fi, like fantasy, near future game, again, you can just throw a stone and hit a whole bunch of them. If you want far out sci-fi games, dude, you like, the world is your oyster there. Like, you have the options. So, it's really pretty cool, to be honest. The variation in the tabletop gaming sphere, right? You get all these different kind of like flavors and stories and all this kind of stuff, and it's really neat. You know, I think there's a lot of value in that. I think, and a lot of like cool ways to scratch different interests. My problem is that I like most of it, right? Like, the only stuff I'm really not super interested into is like the Napoleonic period. Just not a big fan of that period, and like the Dark Ages I'm really not a big fan of either. And that like kind of like ancient historical stuff, I'm just not a big fan of it. Like, if I want to play like knights and shields and stuff, I want my guys to have dragons and stuff. I'm not really into, it's just knights or whatever. But, some people are, and there's lots of options for that. You can go play Lion Rampant, I think, or all kinds of stuff. Saga? Journey, or I think is another one. I don't know. But like, really, whatever setting you want, you can find it in tabletop gaming, and that's really fun. But, as you can see from the trillion different games I play, it does make it hard, right? Like, that is a challenge. Because now I have to store all this stuff, and I'm interested in all these things. So it's like, oh, Conflict 47 is going to have an update. Oh, that's so exciting. I can't wait, And then it's like, I saw an update from Battletech today, and I was like, oh, man, I can't wait, It's just like, God damn, this kind of sucks. But, it's also kind of cool that variation is there. What I really should do is pick, like, 2 or 3 games and be like, these are the games I play, But something great like one-page rules makes that really hard, because then I can really take any theme and apply it and play it in one-page rules, So it's like, oh, I need, historical terrain today, and I need this terrain tomorrow, kind of thing. It makes it harder, Alright, I need to grab another color real quick. I always do the bread bags in Luftwaffe blue. I don't know why. That's the color I chose for the bread bags. Like I said, they come in all kinds of colors, but yeah, I always paint the bread bags in Luftwaffe blue. But these came in tan, these came in green, they came in gray. So really, whatever color you want to do your bread bags in, you can. I just always do them in Luftwaffe blue. So I'm just going to hit anybody that has a bread bag real quick. And then I'm going to clean up the rest of the gear they have. And then we will clean up the uniforms. And then these guys will basically be done at that point. While I have it out, I'm going to hit all of the bread bags on all 9 models real quick. It'll just make my life much easier later. Because this is the only color I use, or the only thing I do in Luftwaffe blue, unless I'm painting Fallschirmjägers. Okay, cool. At which point sometimes their smocks and their pants and stuff get painted in this color too, but that's not what I'm painting right now, so. Okay, so we need to do that, and then we're gonna need brown. This is just warm brown from Proacryl. I love this color. Again, it's a really nice, just rich brown. This I'm gonna do all of the handles of their entrenching tools in, and then I am going to do all of their water canteens in this as well, because the water canteens, they were really weird. They had this like felt cover on them. They're kind of neat, to be honest. It's a cool concept. I don't think it ever worked the way they wanted it to, but it's a neat idea. So they had this felt cover on them, and the idea is that you could actually put water onto the felt cover and it would cool your canteen down. Essentially like trying to cool down your drinking water, which is actually a surprisingly thoughtful feature in a piece of army kit. I don't think it ever worked as intended, but it does give them a very unique look and a very unique shape, where they have kind of this brown outer bit and then this black strap that runs down them. Because the top of the canteen is like a cup. So like these canteens, they have this really kind of distinct fat top to them. And it's because it's a cup that sits on top, and then the strap holds the cup onto the canteen. And they just end up looking like that. So some of these Blitzkrieg models and Blitzkrieg kits, people would put their bayonets on the top and tie it to their entrenching tool, because this way it didn't like flop around as they were moving around. So you'll see that on a couple of these. I don't think I did the rifles in warm brown, but in case I did, I'm just going to hit this real quick. I think I used a different color for the rifle bodies, but in case I did, I'm just going to hit this rifle real quick so that worst case it has one extra coat of paint. Best case, this is the color I used. So yeah, we'll figure that out later. I don't really remember what color I used for the rifles, so I have to look at the ones I painted and see if it's the right color or not. I think I used a softer brown for the rifles, but we'll see. And again, you know, in the immortal words of Sonic Sledgehammer, uniforms are anything but. So, you know, this guy might have the darker brown wood rifle, you know? Alright. Let's see. What else do we got? So a lot of these guys had a Zelt band, I think it's called. And it's a it's like part of a tent, essentially. So they would carry it on their back, and it's like 1/3 of a tent. And what you could do with it is you could also use it as a poncho. Now, I usually use dead flesh for anything because these would usually be in like a camo color. I usually use dead flesh for the base of my camo color, but for whatever reason, I started painting these Zeltbarn things tan, and I think it looks cool, and it's a nice breakup kind of color. Like it's a nice canvas color, so I will probably keep painting them that color. So, and then something else I do in tan, I usually do the straps on the helmets in tan, and any rifle straps in tan. And I think the straps on these helmets were actually supposed to be brown. Let me double check that. Yep, straps on the helmets are supposed to be brown. Straps on the rifles are tan. Okay. Alrighty. Poopy, poopy, poopy. And then this cover here, I also do usually in tan, although they again came in any color you could think of. This like little pouch here. This pouch is actually a cover for a gas mask, which is what's in this can here on his side. But I don't think they ever really used them, to be honest. I think they got issued and never really used. Because World War I had a lot more like gas weaponry and stuff like that, and then World War II did. So like some of this stuff, I think, you know, they were still kind of carrying as holdovers from that kind of trench fighting in World War I. And I think this gas mask and stuff is one of those. They did come in very unique big canisters though, which is kind of neat. So they definitely have a unique look to them because of that. So it's kind of cool. Like the kit here is so iconic. It's really kind of neat. Does this guy have a chest one? Yeah, he does. And this guy's got a rifle strap. Man, my eyes are not focusing good enough to paint these rifles today, I tell you what. The guy with the rifle might have to wait. Because my, yeah. I was up super late playing Warframe with my husband. I don't think my brain's woken up enough to do rifles yet. But alright. This is dark gunmetal. I like to use this for rifles and kind of like more historical bits. Anything that would be metal for kind of historical stuff. Because I paint all my sci-fi guns silver or like gunmetal and then, you know, wash them. But really a lot of the metal on guns and stuff is really this darker kind of gunmetal color. It's not the brighter one. But I just do that for all the sci-fi stuff because it looks more sci-fi, I guess. So, cap of the grenade. We are going to paint the inside of the entrenching tool, inside that leather case, and then we are going to paint his dagger, or bayonet, I guess. We're going to paint the bayonet in. There it is. Also, the caps on the water bottles were this color, but that is such a fiddly detail that you don't have to paint it. I would not worry about it. Nobody's going to judge you because the cap of your water bottle is black and not slightly metally. At least they shouldn't, and if they do, fuck them because they're lame. But yeah, this guy here, he's got the thing, his bayonet on the top of his entrenching tool. So there we go. Now the mess kit, which is like a little eating kit. These came in all kinds of colors. I'm just going to do it in metal for now. But really these came in blue, they came in green, they came in tan. Again, they are one of those ones that was in all kinds of colors. So don't worry about whatever color you pick for that, basically. Like, they came in all kinds of colors. Someone will probably be like, yes, but this color and this color were only issued during this part of the war and stuff like that. And I'm like, I'm painting zombies. Like, fuck off. Like, yeah. All my World War II stuff is like, it's going to sound really stupid to say, but it's like fantasy World War II. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to, like, choosing inspiration from the camp groups at the end of the war. That's like where my inspiration's really coming from. But, you know, I'm not like, this is my 1942 invasion of France army. You know what I mean? I'm not that serious about it. Okay. Now we get back to the greens and the grays. Let's break out that uniform gray that I mentioned earlier, and we'll start touching up some of these grays and start getting these guys ready for kicking ass. Alright, so this guy is all Feldgrau. I think we'll do his helmet actually in the uniform gray. So there is a lot of interest in the like historical parts of like historical miniatures, and it's really kind of fun. But it's doubly fun to like take that historical stuff and do fantasy stuff with it. That's way cooler and way more fun than actually doing at least like a truly proper historical thing, in my opinion. It's way more fun to like be like, and here's my crazy occult leader and his army of giant robots. You know, they have, you know, roughly historical uniforms, you know. I think that's a lot more fun. But to each their own, right? I know some people are like super into the accuracy of stuff, and if that's you, that's cool, right? You do what makes you happy. I am, you know, I am content to get close, and it doesn't have to be exact. I kind of do the same thing, like, really with everything in my life, right? Like, you know, it doesn't, I want it to be perfect, but my definition of perfect is probably different than someone else's, right? Like, I want it to be enjoyable and interesting to me more than 100% accurate. You know, or like if I'm playing a video game, right? Like I want to have a build that does pretty well, but I don't feel like I have to have the best build, right? If something's a little more kind of off, but I find it more fun, like I'll happily do that, right? You know, but I'll probably inspire what I find fun off of the best build, you know. That's just kind of how I am, you know. This is kind of the same way. I think some part of my brain is also very averse to people telling me how I have to spend my free time. You know, like, you have to play this way, you have to do that. Some part of my brain is like, you have to fuck off, you know. You know, even if the way that they're talking is correct, yeah, you know, that kind of thing just sort of shuts my brain down. Okay, so let's see. I didn't paint anybody's boots. How can these guys be goose-stepping zombies without their goose-stepping boots? Alright, we'll have to update those then in a sec. Yeah, you can see I'm just going through, trying to clean up some of the lines for the uniforms, you know. With some of this, on the parts of the uniforms that we didn't paint yet, right? Because the primer is very close to this gray, so the parts of the uniforms that we didn't paint yet, I'm trying to clean those up. This will be my touch-up step for those, and it should be pretty good. Okay, let's see, this guy, he's got gray pants. I do really like the look of the mixed uniforms. Like the, there's a new actual Warlord kit coming out. This guy's all Felgrow. Okay. There's a new Warlord kit coming out for new, like, these kind of, like, new kind of German sculpts that looks really cool. It's like I think they're calling them veteran Germans or something. And it's kind of similar to the Grenadier kit, with, you know, some of their gears kind of mixed, and some of them have the Zelt barns and stuff. It looks really cool. I'm definitely looking forward to that. Getting a hold of one of those eventually. Yeah. I'm missing one of the British kits. I'm gonna pick one of those up too, because that one's supposed to have heads to make Sikhs in it, and that's cool as shit. Sikhs are fucking badass, man. They're really cool. Yeah, and they did a lot of neat stuff fighting in Africa and India and stuff during kind of like the beginning of the war. So that's pretty cool. I'd definitely like to make some Sikhs. Because right now my British are primarily inter-allied Polish. You know, having some Polish heritage, it feels kind of correct in my brain to make Polish, you know. Plus, I like the we've been driven from our home and we're coming back and fighting for it kind of idea. I think that's really cool. I think that's a fun kind of narrative, you know. Plus, I made myself some Polish werebears, like the artillery bear Wojak. I'm not gonna say it right. Yeah, they rescued some artillery bear, some like bear from like a Russian circus or something, and they like used him to carry artillery, so it's pretty dope. But yeah, because of that, I have some Polish werebears. Occurred to me I didn't paint in the helmet straps. So let's go paint in everybody's helmet strap before the brown dries. And I also said I didn't paint in anybody's boots and then totally didn't actually do it. So we're going to have to do that too. Derp. Derp, derp, derp. Derp, derp, derp. The details on the zombies are a little soft. Do any of these guys have... I feel like one of these guys has a grenade in his boot. But yeah, details are a little soft. It's not bad. It just means they're going to look particularly unkempt until we hit them with washes. Once we hit them with washes, they're going to look fucking dope. But these kind of soft, when a model has soft details, it stays in the ugly model phase kind of like longer than regular, right? I think it's one of the reasons people like GW models so much, is that because the details are so crisp, they tend to not be in that this model is fucking ugly phase very long. I think it's one of the reasons why they are so extremely popular. One of the reasons, but I think it actually is definitely a factor. I think people, because the details are so called out, people can see the end result like in their mind's eye faster than with a model like this, where like, you know, right now all the skin basically looks like a blob and looks like shit. You know, and it's going to stay that way until I put washes on it, and then it's going to look super cool. But until I put washes on it, it's going to look like trash. You know, now I've definitely painted enough models to know that there is definitely enough crisp detail here that once I get a wash on this, it's going to look super cool. But until that happens, they're just going to look like these ugly ass white blobs. Alright, let's see, this guy, he had the Felgrau helmet. He's got Felgrau pants too. Okay. And he has a gas mask container. I usually paint the gas mask containers in Felgrau. Again, these came in every color under the sun. You'd have them in Luftwaffe blue, you'd have them in tan, you'd have them in the Blausgrau, the blue-gray, the uniform gray. You'd have them in every fucking color known to man. So, really, you could paint them whatever color you wanted. And if you had a mixed force, like how I'm making it here, where like the uniforms are kind of mixed up, which is kind of like something you'd see a lot during the late war, you can just paint them whatever colors on your palette at the time, and it'll be fine. Alright, there's our Blausgrau for all those guys. This guy still needs a whole bunch of love. We're just going to put him back in the ranks. Yeah. That's what we're going to do. So I kind of gotta start over with him, I think. And we'll just work on these 4 for now. I think that's probably the best option. Alright. Let's see. What did we miss? His grays and his greens are all touched up. His gear is all touched up. Same thing with this guy. Same thing with that guy. And wow, okay, same thing with that guy. Well, crap, okay. I did not realize those guys were that close to being done. Well, in that case, we might as well touch up some other things then. Because I want to give them a couple minutes to dry before I put washes on them. Because I don't want the wash to reactivate the paint. Normally you should give it a lot longer than what I'm going to give it here, but you know, I tend to do it a little bit faster because of stream, right? Lots of times what I'll do when I'm actually just painting models for me is I will get all the colors on there, you know, get all my details in, get everything touched up, and then I'll go, you know, like have lunch or play a video game or something, right? And then next time I feel like hobbying, I will, you know, I'll do the washes. That's kind of where my hobbying will start. So, yeah. So these guys are going to get washes, and then they are actually going to get another step after that, which is going to be blood. So they're going to get some blood on them too, because I think you have to have some blood on a zombie. That feels appropriate. Really, we could get the first part of the base down on these guys too. Maybe we'll do that. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I might do that later. Because the trees we built the other week, they're kind of in this state right now. So their next step is to paint the rocks and then start texture painting. So they're fucking ugly as shit right now. The same texture paint I'm going to do these in, I'm going to do on the bases on these guys. So maybe I'll just do it all one time. Okay. Let's see. We'll see if we can scrounge up some more black off the palette here for this guy. Because some of these guys still look a little glossy with their paints, so we'll give them a minute. It's a little bit cold here in Hawaii today, so everything's not drying instantly. I will say that is one of the hugest benefits of living in Hawaii, besides getting to live in Hawaii, is that you get to model all year round, right? And you really don't have to worry about any weirdness in temperature or anything like that. Like, these guys, I primed them last night at 12:30, like midnight, and just left them out back all night. And they're fine, right? They prime perfectly fine. You know, to do that in March in the mainland would be insane, you know, but because of the way our climate and temperature and stuff works, we could just do it all day around. All right, let's do our washes. Okay. Do we want to do the brown wash or do we want to do strong tone? I feel like I'm feeling strong tone. Let's do a 2-to-1 mix of strong tone and wash medium. That sounds pretty good to me. That way we'll... Because I do think there's a lot of value in like World War II stuff being really dirty, but you know, I do. One of the downfalls I think of these models is I do think like the grays, I think you can see the difference, but I think if the wash was a little bit lighter, you'd be able to see it better. So we'll do a 2-to-1 mix. 2, 3, and then 6 drops of strong tone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we'll just slap this on everything. Got to mix it up first, though, of course. And then boop, it goes everywhere. But yeah, we are in a very very good time to be playing tabletop games because there is so much choice. I think that is a real thing. It does also mean that, like, you know, like I said, if you do like all the different things and all, it means you're going to constantly be buying stuff. You're going to constantly be doing this, right? Constantly trying to find people to play something that isn't Warhammer. Like, you know, because there is that option, it makes it particularly annoying when everyone just wants to play Warhammer. You know? So just slapping our wash on, then going back and wicking away areas where there's too much. But I mean, this being like a, I don't know, kind of like a golden age for tabletop gaming is really pretty neat because, like, you know, kits like this exist now, and that's really, really dope. You know, the idea that you would essentially have like a kit designed entirely to kit bash like different era zombies all in the same kit. I think that's really cool. Like, even 5 years ago, if you told me that, it'd be like, bullshit, nobody's gonna make that. You know, and then here's Wargames Atlantic fucking making it, you know? Apparently the very bottom was all this wash medium. I apparently did not mix it nearly good enough. Yeah, it always feels kind of weird doing like historical bad guys, right? I'm painting those kind of miniatures, but I mean, you know, you need something for your British and your US to shoot, you know? You gotta have a bad guy if you're playing a game. You can't just make the good guys, you know? And honestly, a lot of this kit and stuff is really interesting. And the history of it is very fascinating. So like it's cool to learn about for sure. But yeah, you always gotta have some of your good guys to shoot. Alright, so what I'm doing now is I'm just going back and I am kind of dabbing off wash where there's just too much of it, right? So it's going to naturally pull in kind of like areas like the crook of the arm and stuff like that. So I'm just going over and hitting some of that. I do feel like if you're not really dabbing your wash off, you're probably not using enough wash. You know, we're going to hit some areas like his face there, put a little bit more on there because I want his mouth to be dark. So, all right, and then this guy here, underneath of the hands really likes to pull on these, it seems like. There we go. All right, now, last but not least, our zombies need some blood. So we're going to use a speed paint for this because it will be kind of thin, and that would be cool. Now, there is a flicking brush technique that you can use for doing blood, where you put some paint on your tip of your brush, and you bend it back, and you go like that, and it flings little speckles and stuff onto your model. However, you have very little control over that when you do it. So I am not a big fan of doing that. I'd much rather kind of get in here and just kind of deet with a brush. So I'm going to take my brush I've been doing all these models with, which is this one. And this is I don't know what this is. It had a brand name and stuff on and a number on it, but it all wore off. But we're going to get some of this red. This is Gore Red from Vallejo. And we're just going to tap up a couple of areas with it. Like the hands. Gonna hit like the mouth on this guy. Maybe some drops on his chest here. And a drop or two on his pants. Right? Just kind of really basic little taps with our red. There we go. And then same thing for this guy, right? He's going to get a couple little doo-doo-doos maybe on his hands. Right, he's grabbing some stuff. He's going to get a little bit in his mouth there. Right, a little bit on his clothes. He's a messy eater, you know, that kind of stuff. And there we go. See? Nothing too crazy. I don't want them all to kind of like be 100% the same, so this guy's not going to get any on his mouth, but he'll get some on this hand. We'll leave the other hand alone. And then Mr. Hugs here, he's going to get some on all of his hands here. Alright, now the reason I'm using speed paint for this is that it'll kind of sink in and stuff and won't cover up any of the details in the wash. As you can see, the model's still like soaking wet from wash. So I'm not really giving it the time to dry it needs. But you know, it's because of streaming, right? So there we go. And that is 4 zombies all done. And we'll get them all up here and we will show them all off. We did some work on the other ones too, but these are the ones that are completed. So we've got Mr. Grenade Man. There he is. I like that maybe this grenade is primed, but he doesn't remember to throw it. So maybe he's just like a suicide bomber. Alright, we got this just kind of like, come on. We got just this kind of like shambling guy here. It's pretty fun. He's just kind of like a generic shambler. This guy with a uniform but no helmet. Also pretty fun. And my favorite is Mr. Hugs. He was the first one I kitbashed, so yeah, he's easily my favorite. And as much as I like this camera while I'm working, I do think I need to set my detail camera back up, as I think it shows that kind of detail stuff better, especially for like end results and stuff like that. So I will work on getting that set back up then. All right, well, that's about half our zombies all done. I'm going to go ahead and call it there. It's been streaming for over an hour. I hope you guys enjoyed painting some kitbashed zombies that we did yesterday. Kitbashed them yesterday with me today, so it's kind of cool. We got to go from on the sprue to being done in one weekend, which is pretty cool. And yeah, I'm going to call it there. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend, and keep on keeping on.